Well, in another major development tonight, Buckingham Palace has said that the King has made clear his profound concern at allegations about the conduct of his brother, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
For decades, Prince Andrew's name hovered at the edge of controversy, shielded by privilege and palace silence. But today, the whispers are over. A stunning sentence has been handed down, and with it, the final collapse of a royal facade once thought untouchable. What led to this unprecedented moment? Who spoke? Who stayed silent? And why now? As doors close and history redraws itself, one question echoes across the world. How did it end this way? The truth, long buried, surfaces with consequences no crown survives. The arrest that shook the crown. The British public woke up to shocking news as Prince Andrew, also known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, and a former senior member of the royal family, was arrested in connection with a serious allegation. According to police sources, the arrest is linked to suspected misconduct in public office, a charge that has immediately drawn national and international attention. A quiet but serious announcement on Thursday signaled a major development in an ongoing police investigation. Thames Valley Police confirmed that officers had arrested a man in his 60s from Norfolk on February 19th. While the statement itself was carefully worded, its message was clear. This is a live case, and the investigation is far from over. According to the police, the arrest came after weeks of continued inquiries. Officers did not act on impulse. Rather, the move followed what they described as sustained investigative work. Alongside the arrest, police teams were actively searching several properties linked to the suspect, not only in Norfolk, but also in Berkshire. These searches, they explained, form part of efforts to gather further evidence and establish the full picture surrounding the case. At the time the statement was released, the man remained in police custody as detectives continued their work behind the scenes. Notably, police chose not to publicly identify the suspect. This decision, they emphasized, was not an attempt at secrecy, but a requirement under national legal rules. Naming an individual at this stage, they warned, could undermine the investigation and potentially compromise future court proceedings. To reinforce this point, Thames Valley Police issued a clear warning to both the media and the general public. With the case now active, they urged restraint, cautioning that speculation, careless commentary, or misleading reports could amount to contempt of court. The development has also drawn a measured response from the highest level of the monarchy. King Charles III, speaking briefly on the matter involving his brother, struck a careful and deliberate tone. In his statement, the king avoided details and personal commentary, instead stressing a single principle: the importance of allowing the legal process to unfold without pressure or interference. He underscored that the rule of law must be respected and that investigators should be given the space they need to do their work properly. While many questions remain unanswered, the tone from both police and palace suggests a shared position. This is a matter for the justice system, not public opinion. As the investigation continues, authorities have made it clear that patience and responsibility are essential. For now, the focus remains firmly on due process, with all eyes waiting to see what the next stage of the inquiry will reveal. Providing further insight, Assistant Chief Constable Oliver Wright explained that the decision to open a formal investigation came after careful and detailed consideration of the allegations. He highlighted the importance of maintaining fairness, transparency, and independence throughout the process. According to him, protecting the integrity of the investigation is a top priority, especially given the intense public interest surrounding the case. Even as many details remain unclear, police authorities have urged the public to remain calm and patient. They have promised that new information will be released when the time is right, and when doing so, will not interfere with the investigation. Until then, officials say their focus is on carefully examining every lead and ensuring that no critical detail is overlooked. Across the country, people are watching closely. Conversations are unfolding in homes, online spaces, and public forums, all fueled by a growing sense that this case carries weight far beyond those directly involved. The outcome, many believe, could shape how citizens view justice, fairness, and accountability. More than anything, the situation has stirred deep questions about trust, especially trust in powerful institutions that have long been seen as beyond question or consequence. As the investigation continues, the nation waits, knowing that whatever emerges next may redefine not only this case, but public confidence itself. On what grounds was the ex-prince sentenced? Could he have committed something so huge? Let's delve into the details of how one prince became a liability. Scandal in the House of Windsor. The investigation deepened when police began examining a series of troubling claims linked to Prince Andrew, following the release of an enormous cache of documents by U.S. authorities. More than 3 million pages related to Jeffrey Epstein were made public.
Prince Andrew and the former President Bill Clinton have been named in newly released court documents relating to the sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
And buried within them were details that reignited global scrutiny and public anger. What emerged painted a picture not just of association, but of continued contact long after Epstein's reputation had collapsed. The newly surfaced documents surrounding Prince Andrew have cast a long and troubling shadow over his conduct while serving in official capacities. Some of the files suggest that in 2010, during his tenure as a UK trade envoy, Andrew was not merely traveling on ceremonial visits, but was also sharing updates with Jeffrey Epstein about the countries he visited, including Vietnam and Singapore. These were not offhand remarks or casual travel notes. One confidential message reportedly went even further, with Andrew seeking Epstein's perspective on potential investment opportunities in Afghanistan's Helmand province, an area riddled with conflict and instability at the time. For many, this raised uncomfortable questions about judgment, boundaries, and the influence of a convicted sex offender on someone representing the United Kingdom on the international stage. The situation became even more explosive with the allegations made by Virginia Giuffre, who accused Epstein of trafficking her to have sexual encounters with Andrew on 3 separate occasions.
Britain's royal family bracing for the fallout over that first UK interview with a woman who says that she was directed to have sex with Prince Andrew.
Twice when she was just 17 years old. These claims, when combined with the newly released documents, reignited public outrage in the United Kingdom. Citizens and commentators alike were not only angered by the allegations themselves, but also by what many perceived as a failure of accountability at the highest levels of society. The idea that someone so closely linked to the monarchy could remain under scrutiny for years without full transparency only intensified the sense of injustice. The consequences for Andrew were immediate and historic. He was stripped of all royal military titles and honorary roles, a dramatic move that underscored the seriousness of the crisis facing the monarchy. In addition, he announced that he would leave his residence on the royal estate at Windsor, a clear signal of his effective removal from public royal life. Throughout this turbulent period, Andrew has consistently denied any sexual wrongdoing. Yet the legal proceedings cast a long and lasting shadow. When Giuffre filed a civil lawsuit against him, the case ultimately concluded in 2022, with Andrew agreeing to a multi-million-pound settlement. Importantly, this settlement did not include any admission of guilt. Even so, for many observers, the damage had already been done. The episode was widely described in the media as another blow to the monarchy, highlighting enduring questions about trust, responsibility, and the consequences of scandal at the very top. Beyond titles and settlements, the affair has provoked a broader reflection on how power, privilege, and accountability intersect. The Prince Andrew controversy serves as a stark reminder that even those born into the most protected institutions are not immune from scrutiny, and that public confidence can be quickly eroded when questions of judgment and influence are left unresolved. For the monarchy, the repercussions extend far beyond one individual, touching the institution's credibility, its relationship with the public, and the very notion of moral responsibility within the corridors of power. For how long has the monarchy been managing Andrew's case? How has the ex-prince's issue been handled? Let's dive into the details of how the Crown has been handling Andrew's Epstein scandal. The monarchy in turmoil. During the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, Prince Andrew, formerly known as Mountbatten Windsor, was constantly under the media microscope because of his controversial ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, the focus has shifted to his elder brother, King Charles III, who is finding himself at the center of a different kind of royal storm, according to royal commentator Imogen Lloyd Webber. "This is uncharted territory for the monarchy," Lloyd Webber told ABC News. Unlike politicians, who can often deflect criticism by blaming a predecessor, King Charles has nowhere to hide. Every decision, every statement is magnified, and every misstep could reflect not just on him, but on the entire royal institution. Charles faces an almost impossible task. He must carefully honor his mother's enduring legacy while simultaneously shielding the crown from damage. He is walking a tightrope, balancing public trust, private family controversies, and the long shadow cast by scandals linked to his younger brother. The situation underscores the fragile nature of royal authority in modern times, where history, reputation, and personal choices collide under the relentless gaze of the public eye. Reflecting on how Queen Elizabeth managed the scandal, Lloyd Webber explained, "The Queen had her soft spots. Some would even call them blind spots for Andrew. Charles has now inherited a situation that is both sensitive and potentially damaging. Since taking the throne, King Charles III has acted decisively to confront one of the most controversial chapters in modern royal history. In a series of unprecedented steps, he stripped his younger brother, Prince Andrew, of his royal style, titles, and honors, including the prestigious designation of Prince. This was more than a symbolic gesture. It marked a clear break from tradition, signaling that no member of the royal family is beyond accountability. More recently, the king requested that Andrew leave Royal Lodge, the home he had called his own for decades near Windsor Castle. Such moves highlight Charles's determination to protect the monarchy's reputation while addressing uncomfortable truths within his own family, a delicate balance between duty, loyalty, and public expectation. Public statements from the royals on this matter have been rare, carefully measured, and strategically phrased. Among them, only Prince Edward, Andrew's younger brother, has spoken openly. While attending an educational panel in Dubai on February 3rd, Edward drew attention to those most affected. "I think it's really important always to remember the victims, and there are many who have been affected by all of this." His comments reflect a subtle but clear priority, placing the well-being of victims above family defense. Other senior royals, including King Charles himself, his heir Prince William, and William's wife Catherine, Princess of Wales, have followed the same careful line. Every statement emphasizes empathy for victims and the need to uphold justice, rather than publicizing internal disputes. This approach demonstrates a monarchy aware of its fragile place in modern society, balancing centuries of tradition with the scrutiny of a global audience. As the royal family navigates this turbulent period, the world is watching with intense interest. For King Charles, the challenge is uniquely complex. He must safeguard the crown and the monarchy's legacy, while confronting the lingering shadows cast by past scandals. History, family loyalty, and public scrutiny intersect in ways few modern monarchs have faced. Every decision, every statement, carries weight, not only for the royals themselves, but for the image of an institution that has endured for centuries. Has there been any scandal that rocked the royal family like Andrew's? What did the crown do to save the face of the royal family? Let's dig into the details of how Andrew lost his royal titles. End of a prince. Buckingham Palace announced an unprecedented decision. King Charles III stripped Prince Andrew of his titles, leaving him known only as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Experts say the move is necessary. Constitutional scholar Craig Prescott of Royal Holloway, University of London, called it a line separating Andrew from the monarchy clearly now. This action comes on the heels of an earlier announcement earlier this month, when Andrew reportedly agreed to step back from using his royal titles voluntarily. At the time, palace officials hoped this would quiet the storm of damaging headlines and sensational stories that have plagued him for years. Yet far from ending the public and media scrutiny, the move seemed only to intensify it. Tabloids, commentators, and social media voices interpreted it as insufficient, prompting members of Parliament to openly suggest that Andrew should be formally stripped of his titles and even removed from his residence at Royal Lodge. Such calls raised the prospect of a full parliamentary debate on the conduct of a senior royal, a scenario almost certain to generate a torrent of unwanted publicity for the monarchy as a whole. The potential spectacle was troubling for Buckingham Palace, which has long balanced tradition, public scrutiny, and the personal lives of its members with extreme caution. It was clear that a stronger, more formal action was required to protect both the institution and its public image. Royal watchers note that the timing of this decision also carries a deeper strategic purpose. George Gross, a noted royal expert at King's College London, framed it as a necessary step not only for the present, but for the monarchy's future. This, I think, was a very clear statement of what had to be done to get the house in order now and also to protect the family going forward, he said. Gross also highlighted the practical benefits for the new heir apparent, Prince William, suggesting that Andrew's removal from public titles makes life significantly easier for the next generation of royals. It felt inevitable, Gross added, noting that the decision was both logical and perhaps unavoidable given the circumstances. The symbolism of the move cannot be understated. By removing Andrew's titles, the king is sending a message to the public and the media. No member of the royal family is untouchable, and misconduct, even by those born into privilege, has consequences. For decades, the monarchy has relied on a careful balancing act between tradition and transparency, and Andrew's fall from royal grace represents one of the clearest examples of that delicate equilibrium being tested. While Andrew Mountbatten Windsor will continue to live outside the formal structure of the monarchy, the impact of this decision is felt throughout royal circles. Public confidence in the institution has been shaken by repeated scandals, and the king's bold step seeks to restore some of the trust that has been eroded. The move is not merely symbolic. It is an attempt to protect the monarchy from future crises, drawing a sharp boundary between personal failings and the enduring dignity of the crown. For observers, the message is unmistakable. The monarchy will act decisively when necessary, even against its own. And while Andrew's new designation removes the glamour and privilege of royal titles, it also serves as a stark reminder that accountability can, and will, reach the highest echelons of power. For Buckingham Palace, it is a statement of control, of foresight, and of an unwavering commitment to safeguarding the institution for generations to come. How could a member of the royal family be involved in such scandal? Did he ever show any sign of remorse? Let's journey into the details of how Andrew voluntarily stepped back in the height of the controversy years ago. The royal scandal. Prince Andrew asked Queen Elizabeth II for permission to step back from public duties amid growing backlash over his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. He expressed sympathy for Epstein's victims and acknowledged public demand for closure, but his statement failed to ease criticism surrounding his long-standing association with the disgraced financier. The controversy reignited after a widely publicized interview with the BBC.
I've never really felt the need to go and party, and certainly going to Jeffrey's was not about partying. Absolutely not.
In which Prince Andrew attempted to defend his association with Epstein. The interview, intended to clarify his position, instead provoked public outrage, leading to an unprecedented backlash against the royal. Critics argued that his explanations fell short, raising questions about judgment, accountability, and the role of privilege in shielding high-profile figures from consequences. This backlash has not been limited to public opinion. Several major companies and institutions with which Prince Andrew is linked have taken steps to distance themselves from him. High-profile corporations such as BT and Barclays have formally severed ties or suspended relationships with the Duke, reflecting the seriousness with which the corporate world treats reputational risk. Universities, charities, and other organizations connected to him have followed suit, demonstrating a clear signal that association with controversy, even at the royal level, can no longer be ignored. For months leading up to his withdrawal from public life, Prince Andrew faced relentless questioning from journalists, investigators, and the public over his ties to Epstein. Reports and emails suggested that their connection was closer and more sustained than previously acknowledged. The revelations sparked widespread debate about accountability, power, and the influence of wealth and status in shielding individuals from scrutiny, particularly when those individuals occupy positions of public trust. The timing of his decision to step back is significant. Epstein's crimes and eventual death left many victims frustrated at the lack of justice and public recognition of their suffering. By distancing himself from official duties, Prince Andrew may be attempting to mitigate further reputational damage to the royal family, while also responding to growing pressure from both media and civil society. Yet for many observers, the withdrawal raises more questions than answers. Critics argue that stepping back does not equal accountability, and that the shadow of Epstein's crimes continues to loom over the Duke's public image. Beyond the immediate fallout, the episode has exposed the delicate balancing act required of modern royalty. Public expectations, corporate interests, and the scrutiny of global media now intersect in ways that leave little room for private mistakes to remain private. The Duke's situation highlights a harsh reality. In the age of information, connections that might have once been overlooked or quietly managed are now subject to relentless examination. Prince Andrew's retreat from public duties marks a dramatic chapter in an ongoing saga that intertwines privilege, scandal, and public trust. While he claims to sympathize with victims and respect the need for closure, the wider narrative is far from resolved. The Epstein case, and the Duke's involvement in it, continues to spark debate about accountability at the highest levels, the limits of forgiveness, and the enduring consequences of association with one of the most notorious criminal cases of recent history. In the end, stepping back may shield him from immediate scrutiny, but the questions about judgment, influence, and moral responsibility remain, ensuring that the story will continue to captivate and unsettle the public for years to come. Before the scandal leaked, what kind of reputation did Andrew have with the people? Was he a respected man? Let's delve into the details of a misconduct that stained his image much earlier. From Epstein to offensive language, fresh allegations have reignited controversy around Prince Andrew after Rohan Silva claimed the royal used a racial slur during a 2012 meeting at Buckingham Palace, suggesting troubling behavior beyond past scandals. The impact of this moment on Silva was immediate and intense. In a column for the Evening Standard, he recalled stepping out of the palace into the sunlight, stunned and almost physically shaken by the prince's words. I remember distinctly how I walked blinking into the sunshine outside Buckingham Palace, reeling at the prince's use of language, Silva wrote. He reflected on the broader context, noting that the royal environment may have enabled such remarks to go unchecked. He clearly wasn't taken to task very often by the people around him, which meant offensive language could go unchallenged, Silva explained. The new allegations add to a growing history of claims regarding Prince Andrew's insensitivity and poor judgment in public and private settings. He is not new to controversy involving racially offensive remarks. Former UK Home Secretary Jackie Smith recently shared her own experience on a podcast, recounting an encounter with the Duke during a state dinner at Buckingham Palace for the Saudi royal family. Smith described being left slack-jawed by what Prince Andrew reportedly said during their conversation. While Smith did not go into explicit detail, she hinted that his comments involved Arabs and even a remark about camels, suggesting that the nature of the statements was shocking and deeply inappropriate. "It's as bad as you can imagine," she said. Smith's account, paired with Silva's allegations, paints a concerning picture of repeated behavior, showing a pattern of remarks that many consider unacceptable in a modern public figure. These revelations arrive in the wake of Prince Andrew's widely criticized 2019 BBC interview about his relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. That interview, intended to clear his name, instead drew global condemnation and significantly damaged his reputation. Now, with Silva's claims and Smith's recollections, the narrative surrounding Prince Andrew appears to be one of repeated lapses in judgment, poor awareness of social sensitivities, and a failure to understand the impact of words on others. Critics argue that such incidents reflect more than isolated mistakes. They suggest a broader culture of entitlement and insularity within certain corners of the royal household, where offensive remarks might go unchallenged and accountability can be elusive. For many, these allegations are yet another reminder of the disconnect between public expectations of the royals and the behavior that sometimes occurs behind closed doors. As these reports circulate, Prince Andrew faces renewed scrutiny over his public and private conduct. Questions linger about how such comments could have been tolerated in high-level settings and what they reveal about the awareness, or lack thereof, of the impact of his words on colleagues and international guests. While the prince has not publicly responded to these latest allegations, the growing chorus of voices recounting their experiences suggests that this chapter of his life will remain a topic of debate, discussion, and public concern for some time to come. But before his arrest, what was the most recent sanction Andrew got from the monarchy? Was it deprivation of privileges or something stronger? Let's find out. From palace to hiding place. What was first announced last October sounded, on the surface, like a carefully planned transition. Prince Andrew, born Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, was expected to leave his grand 30-room mansion and step away from his remaining royal titles. Royal insiders suggested the move would happen quietly in the early months of the year, with Andrew relocating to Sandringham, far from the public eye. But what eventually unfolded felt far less orderly. Instead of a slow, measured departure, the move appeared rushed, almost like a retreat carried out under cover of darkness. This sudden exit came at the worst possible moment, when Andrew and his former wife were facing renewed and intense public attention. A fresh wave of damaging revelations from the Epstein files had broken, pouring fuel onto an already blazing fire. The pressure was relentless, and the timing could hardly have been more uncomfortable. According to reports first published by The Sun, the move happened so quickly that Andrew did not even have time to fully pack his belongings. In fact, it is understood he will need to return at some point to collect items left behind. Loose ends remain, a sign that this was not a move planned months in advance, but one forced by circumstances spiraling out of control. This hurried decision followed what many described as a public relations disaster. Only days earlier, Andrew had been seen riding his horse around Windsor, and even waving from his car. To many observers, these scenes felt deeply out of touch. At a time when global attention was focused on his past association with a convicted sex offender, such relaxed and visible appearances struck the wrong note entirely. Those optics, as palace watchers often say, were terrible. And now, that chapter has been firmly closed. The days of Andrew appearing casually in public spaces seem to be over. A clear line has been drawn. His new reality will be much quieter. Andrew is expected to stay out of sight at Sandringham, at least for now. His first stop will be Wood Farm, a modest and temporary residence on the estate, before eventually settling into a more permanent home nearby. Importantly, this arrangement will be funded privately by King Charles III, not by public money, a detail that has been carefully emphasized. Behind the scenes, the thinking appears strategic. Sources suggest it is safer to keep Andrew somewhere discreet but supervised rather than forcing him into total exile. Pushing him too far away, they believe, could expose him to questionable financial backers or unsavory sources of support. From the palace's perspective, quiet containment is preferable to complete abandonment. Throughout all of this, Andrew has continued to firmly deny any wrongdoing. Yet regardless of those denials, his sudden move tells its own story. It reflects a monarchy under pressure, scrambling to manage damage, control appearances, and draw boundaries in the middle of a scandal that refuses to fade quietly into the past. So, what do you think about Andrew's arrest? Would the monarchy come to his aid? We'd love to hear your opinions in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe.